Okay, Shalom Akim, Kahalayim Na Yahabashim Yashabashim Hakudash, and double honors to the greatest and apostles. Thought the for the strength in order to make this video, and Yaratazah that you find it edifying as well. In case you notice as well, the reason why I'm doing it this way, where my my face is on the one side of the screen, is so that here, in the post production, I'm able to put some images, and certain text as well, because as I named the video, I believe Native American Indian history, part 13, particularly focusing on the Wounded Knee massacre, because it's also called the Battle of the Wounded Knee, but that's there's a misunderstanding with that, which Apostle Tahar did a video recently, which is through the Spirit as well, because I was also reading into it in one of the chapters here, this book again. I'm almost done with it, and it did mention some history based on the Wounded Knee, and Yaratazah will go and get into it, man. I think you could probably see it right here in the chapter. It says here in chapter 16, Wounded Knee, a real American tragedy. So I'll get to the key parts, like the ghost dance, the originator of the ghost dance as well, because Apostle Tahar did mention that too. And pretty much Esau fearing a revolt from Jake, man. That's why it was really a massacre, which is just a mass killing of Jake, man. The guy that's over there, in the Lakota Sioux. I used to call it CX, but then when I actually searched up how to pronounce it, it's Sioux. It's CIOUX, but it's pronounced as a Sioux or Sioux. So let's see this. Before I start reading, let me get a preset first, because despite all of this, gotta go behind Esau's reason why he was scared of Jake. He was scared of the Gadites, because he thought, oh, okay, they're dancing so that it could be. He perceived it as a military tactic. I know I'm jumping here and there, but Yaratazah, the explanation will come through. I'll probably even read this precept again as well when the point comes across. When I come across the point in the book. Alright, so Genesis 25 and 23 should be. So this is Genesis 25 and verse 23. And the Lord Yahweh said unto her, 2 nations are in thy womb, and 2 manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels, and the one people shall be stronger than the other people. The elder shall serve the younger. And of course, the elder is referring to Esau Edom, because he came out of the womb first, and Jacob came out of the womb after. When Isaac, of course, married Rebecca, twins were in the belly, Jacob and Esau. If you read the full chapter in Genesis 25, and then Esau came out first, red, and of course Jacob came out after. And the point here is the fact that these 2 sons of Jacob, or sons of Isaac, will then become 2 nations, of which will be separate. So the point is the elder shall serve the younger, which means Esau would be a servant unto Jacob, unto Israelites. That's why in the kingdom that will be literal. That's a literal prophecy that's going to come to pass, because in the kingdom of Yahushua, in the kingdom of Yasharallah, the kingdom of Israel, Esau will be our servants, the same way we were made servants unto Esau because of our disobedience to the Most High. So Esau's destined to serve us. In fact, speaking of servitude, just bear with me as well. Still got that cough lingering, the dry cough. But anyway, so Leviticus, let me get this quickly, because that's Esau's destiny, man. So there's a reason why the Most High has put that fear of an Israelite pertaining to he's instilled, the Most High has instilled, Yahweh has instilled that fear of Jake upon Esau. That's why they always call Jake they always show Jake as having these intimidation traits. how can I say this? Dominant traits obviously pertain to intimidation. So naturally, if a Jake doesn't smile, Esau, Edom, or even the other heathen nations, they start to shiver a little bit, quite literally sometimes too. So that's why they always say in the workplace or wherever you are, why don't you smile? You should smile more. I remember, when using the toilet as well, a public toilet, and a guy told me, I didn't know if he was homeless or something. It could have been, but he told me, you should smile more. And that's typically because if a Jake don't smile, they look very serious. They have a very stern face, typically, and you can't really blame them because of the conditions that they live in. So, yeah. Anyway, Salakia. Sometimes you make a point and then. But anyways, Leviticus. So the point is, Esau will be our servants, man, and the Most High has put that fear of Jake, of Israelites, upon Esau's spirit. Hence why he's always trigger happy, in this modern day scenario, with with that gun of his, that weapon of his that he's been blessed with. Fatness of the earth. He will rule with his sword. So that was part of Esau's blessing, man. So he will use that. And when I say trigger happy, I'm just referring to them scenarios where Jake in America driving, and then the police pull up and say, all right, show me your driver license and all that identity related documents. And of course, if Jake is if Jake is foolish and doesn't agree with thine enemy, Matthew 5:25, then they can end up dead easily from just resisting Esau, Edom, man. Esau, certain demons just hop on Esau, and then it's like, yeah, it's a wrap for Jake, man. Back to the spirit realm again. You gotta go for another round. So yeah, let me get this because I've been trying to get it the whole time, but I've been talking. All right, let's see. So Leviticus 25 and verse 40. Leviticus 25 and verse 44. Both thy bondmen and thy bondmaids which thou shalt have shall be of the heathen, and that Salakia. Leviticus 25 and 44. Both thy bondmen and thy bondmaids which thou shalt have, which bondmaids are referring to slaves, servants, which thou shalt have shall be of the heathen. So all these heathen nations, aka anyone else who's not an Israelite, which by the way, you can't judge an Israelite based on their looks. There's an idea within the scriptures called the speckled bird, man. Jeremiah 12 and verse 9. Which means it'll be all sorts of Israelites. It'll be Israelites who look like the other nations, but the thing is, you shouldn't judge by appearance because of the fact that they may look like the other nations. They're actually Israelites in the by bloodline as well. Of course, going back with their father's seed. Let's see. I think that's reference to Numbers 1 and 18. Let me just double check that as well. When the men had to consult their pedigrees. Just hold on. I know I keep going here and there, but you have to the points that come across, just getting a quick preset, but I'm a realign again to the point of the video as well. Because anyways, let me get this. Now that's just a little side tangent, let me just read it. Numbers 1 and 18. It says, Numbers 1 and verse 17, starting from verse 17. And Moses and Aaron took these men, which are expressed by their names, and they assembled all the congregation together on the first day of the second month. And they declared their pedigrees after their families, dealing with their family lines and whatnot, seed line, which is through the father. It says, by the house of their fathers, according to the number of the names from 20 years old and upward, by their polls. That's why you will hear the apostles and the elders say the seed line, which is through the father, is what matters, not through the mother, which is what the Amalekites deal with. which is wrong. It's not scriptural, as we just read there, Numbers 1 and 18. It's through the father's seed line. So anyways, that's just based on the brief point that I made, that you can't judge a person just on physical appearance to say, okay, this is a heathen, this is an Israelite. No, you have to test their spirits. Typically a way of knowing is whether they got salt, man. They got style and certain mannerisms. Yeah, you just know that it's Jake, and so you test the spirit. But going back to the point though, Leviticus 25 and 44, both thy bondmen and thy bondmaids which thou shalt have shall be of the heathen that are round about you. Of them shall ye buy bondmen and bondmaids. So the same way we had our transatlantic slave trade, for southern tribe there, and of course the Gadites, well, northern tribe as well, they had their slave trade too. The Spaniards. Again, Yaratazam, I'm gonna get deeper into the history for the northern tribe. When I say northern tribe, I've already dealt with Ghana Reuben within this little series here. Of course, this is the part 13 video. I need to create a playlist as well, Yaratazam. So I'm gonna do the Latin, the rest of the tribes, or whichever one that I can get into later on, man. So anyway, so it says here, both by Leviticus 25 and 44, both thy bondmen and thy bondmaids, your slaves, your servants, which thou shalt have, shall be of the heathen that are round about you. Of them shall ye buy bondmen and bondmaids. Moreover, of the children of strangers that do sojourn among you, of them shall ye buy of their families that are with you, which they begat in your land, and they shall be your possession. You see? So of course we're gonna possess them. They're gonna be an inheritance for us. That's why it says in verse 46, Leviticus 25 and verse 46. And ye shall take them as an inheritance for your children after you, to inherit them for a possession. They shall be your bondmen forever. But over your brethren, the children of Israel, ye shall not rule one over another with rigor. Because back in the day, you could actually hire an Israelite as a servant, for yourself. That's why Jacob, when he was, of course, trying to get Rachel, from Laban, he worked 7 years. But of course, Leah needed to get a husband too, so he had to work 14 years in total. So that proves there that you can hire an Israelite as a servant. But in the kingdom of Yahushua, there will be no need to hire another Israelite as a servant, man. We're going to just use the heathens, and solely the heathens, as our servants, man, in the kingdom. So that's why it says that there. So the point is that heathens will serve us, man. And then, of course, the Most High has put that fear within the spirit of Edomites, so that they know that that's their future, man. As their kingdom falls, they're gonna realize that, yeah, man, that fear will increase as their kingdom falls, as they get weaker. They know in the spirit that they're gonna be serving Israel before they even know it, man. With Babylon destroyed, Yahushua's kingdom is established. That's it, man. But Yaratazar, in a post production, I'm play some clips, from Apostle Tahar. And Yaratazar, I'm also speaking through the book, this history book. I'll try and link it up, in the post production. As I'm reading it here, or get some images here as well. So that's just some foundation to begin with the intro. A very long intro, but let's read. Alright, so it says here, this is chapter 16 once again, from the Native American history book. Chapter 16, as it says, Wounded Knee, a real American tragedy. I'm going to get straight to the point. So let's see this. It says, Rise of the Ghost Dance. This is page 99. It says, by the late 19th century, Native Americans were well aware of the lies and the cruelty of the American people and their government. Remember, all those multiple treaties of which the generals of the armies tried to make, well, let's just say the US tried to make with the Native American Indians, which the US again were just former British people who stayed there as settlers, or of course they had a battle between the French as well, I believe, and or the Spanish. But again, eventually it was mainly the British that settled there. So it says here, the Sioux people, Sioux, the Sioux people had already been relegated to a reservation, and Sitting Bull, remember we had some history on Sitting Bull, man. He was the one who actually, just briefly touching up on him again. He was one of the leaders of, the Gadites, who also fought wars or fought battles, of Esau Edom, because of the simple fact that Esau Edom did uphold to the treaty. So, if you want to get more history, Yaratazar made it in, I think, part 11 and part 12, of this little series here. So yeah, it says, and it says here, Sitting Bull was their chief during the end of the 19th century. Like many of the humans through history, they thought that their defeat was an indication of spiritual failure. Because you gotta remember, Gadites as well, they believed in the I guess you can't call it philosophy, but vain philosophy, the vain way of thinking called shamanism, which a shaman refers to a priest of God. I could say probably of Reuben as well, because Reuben, again, the Seminole Indians are just simply like a certain tribe or a certain section within the Native American Indians. Native American Indians are like, again, once more, the whole thing of that Northern America. Native American Indians. The Seminole Indians, which are the Reubenites, are just a certain section within the whole Native American Indian region, man, which is obviously USA and of course North America as well. So, because the the portion that the Reubenites resided in was mainly in Florida. So you probably hear of the Seminole Wars and whatnot, but I've already talked about that in the previous video. So let's continue. So it says, like many humans through history, they believed that their defeat was an indication of spiritual failure. Again, shamanism. They believed that they had their own visions and priests and whatnot on the left-hand side, really, which is just dealing with demons, believe it or not. But that's what Jake was into. Gadites were into that. So, believing that people had lost their way by becoming more integrated with Americans, the oppressed people began to return to their traditions. Now it says, which is again vain philosophy, shamanism, which is what's it called? Again, vain philosophy. That's the point. It's worthless. Left-hand side bullshit. Now it says the ghost dance was which Yaratazar at this moment. I gotta upload a clip again of Apostle Tar mentioning what's it called? The guy, he said medicine man. Yaratazar, I'm gonna put some images up as I'm speaking and reading this as well.
Okay, the battle at Wounded Knee. Okay, I put in the truth about the battle at Wounded Knee. So this is the truth coming from Google. We don't know Google. The battle at Wounded Knee in 1890 was actually a massacre where the U.S. Army killed nearly 300 Minni Kangja and Honk Papa and Lakota people, mostly women and children. The majority was women and children who were being disarmed. The conflict, which is often called the Wounded Knee Massacre, began when soldiers attempted to disarm Chief Bigfoot's followers near Wounded Knee Creek. and a shot was fired, leading to a chaotic and brutal attack by the army. They made the attack. There was no heroic thing. It killed mostly men, women and children. The U.S. Army suffered 25 killed and 39 wounded, while Lakota casualties were devastatingly high, with estimates of 250 to 300 dead and 46 wounded. That was a massacre. But they made it a battle. Hezek said, these heroic men, these men of great, no, they're not men of great character. When you see a woman and you blow her away in war, women don't fight wars. You see a pregnant woman, you blow her away, that's that devil in you. And the whole world's waking up to you motherfuckers, man. What happened? U.S., I'm going to get Habakkuk 2 as well. It says, what happened? U.S. soldiers surrounded a camp of Lakota people, aiming to disarm them as part of the ghost dance war. Now you had a man. I don't know I forget the whole history, but I studied it. You had a prophet, I believe, among Gad, medicine man, whatever. Somebody help me out.
So you can understand it. But he even mentions the name of the guy here in the book. He created the ghost dance. So it says that the ghost dance was a spiritual movement that was begun by Wovoka, a Paiute or Paiute mystic. So of course, again, aka a Paiute mystic. Paiute is just that region in what's it called, man? I think I'm gonna do the research, Yaratazar, and then in the post-production I'm gonna put where Paiute is. But it's a region within America. A Paiute mystic, aka, Paiute priests, for that region, for where Gadites were residing in. When Edomites were over them, that's where Jake was enslaved to. A certain region over there in America. So it says Wovoka, a Paiute mystic, again a shaman, so-called priests, for Gadites over there in the region of Paiute. It says the ghost dance was meant to give hope to the Western Native Americans that they could return to the abundance of the past. It says before Europeans had invaded, stolen their lands and resources, and forced them to live on small inhospitable patches of land that the Americans had not yet found any value in. Through dance and prayer, they would find justice against those who had wronged them. It was in part a way of repenting from turning from their original ways. When the Sioux abandoned their traditions, when the Sioux abandoned their traditions, their gods, again just idols on the left-hand side, demons, it says their gods had caused them to suffer and be forced onto the reservation, which I believe even because we were talking about Wounded Knee, I'm gonna get into it soon. This is like a warm-up to that. Wounded Knee is the modern day name is the Pine Reservation, the Pine Indian Reservation, something like that. I'm gonna put the name in the post-production as well. The Pine Indian Reservation, the Pine Indian something like that. Pine Reservation, Pine Indian Reservation, aka the Wounded Knee area, which is in South Dakota. And even currently in this day, apparently around 200 Lakota, which is again Gadites of that Sioux alliance, which again it involved the Lakota Gadites, Nakota Gadites, and the Dakota Gadites as well. So those are the three in that Sioux alliance. So 200 of them, of the Lakota one, or the descendants of the Lakota, are still there today. Now it says here, The ghost dance itself was a sign that they were rejecting the American ways and returning to the old ways. They thought that was the old ways, but again, those old ways were just idol-based ways, if you get what I mean, wickedness essentially. Other natives, they did it in ignorance too. So other native peoples learned of the government and it spread across many of the reservation. So that's the ghost dance. Again, the originator being Wavoka. His slave name was actually called Jack Wilson. You know, doing the research, I could put a little image, probably over here somewhere. But Jack Wilson was the name that he was given by, one of them slave owners. I'll put up the image. So it says dancing has always been important, and really even doing the research, when I looked into the article, little article there, he actually said that, considering that he was a shaman, priest on the left hand side, priest of the Gadax, which is what shaman refers to, being a priest, of the mystics and all that. The point is that Jack Wilson, Wavoka, he had a vision the day that an eclipse happened. And with that vision, he said that the Gadax that resided in Paiute or Paiute, again, the region where Gadax were enslaved as well. In that region, the thing is, the dead would be resurrected, and then, the white settlers would then be removed from that land as well. So that was the intention of that ghost, and he established the ghost dance in order to show this reverence to their I believe to their idols, to their gods. Yartazar, again, post-production, I'm gonna put up some quotes, and I'm gonna link that article in the description too. This might be one of them long videos, man, and nevertheless it's all through the spirit. So that was the intention, so that it was to give people hope, despite receiving that vision on the left hand side. It was to give Gadax hope, to keep going, to feel like they belong to something. They ain't gonna be there forever. So they were doing that ghost dance, on a regular basis in order to prepare for that resurrection of the Paiute Gadax, which again, Gadax was residing in the region of Paiute, which is in South Dakota. So let's see this.
They came up with this thing called a ghost dance, and they would dance for the spirits to help them to fight against Esau. So Esau was saying, we got to stop them from doing the ghost dance. It says the situation escalated after a shot was fired and the army opened fire with rifles and cannons. They got spooked. No lack of discipline. They heard a then they just opened fire. That showed you that you were scared. You were scared. You're scared of the black man. Inside joke. Indiscriminately killing many men, women, and children. So this guy's saying they got to keep their medals. They're honorable men. They're courageous men. They're men of... They ain't no fucking men of integrity. The victims, the majority of the victims, were women and children. Over 250 Lakota were killed and 46 were wounded, many of whom later died. The perpetrators, the perpetrators, you can look that word up, the U.S. Army's 7th Cavalry, a troop shall overcome him, but he shall overcome at the last. Led by, Gad is getting ready to overcome. Led by Colonel James Forrest, was responsible for the massacre. So these guys were not disciplined. They heard one gunshot and opened fire, just blasting everything. That shows you that they lacked discipline and they were fucking scared. Because the early American history, they fought. There's a list of all the laws that America fought. And they were fought in a lot of those wars when they were building this country up, taking it over. They fought Gad, and they lost most of them wars. That's on Google. It'll give you the war that they fought, and it'll tell you whether they lost the war or not. A lot of those wars that they lost were to Gad. It says the aftermath. 19 soldiers were wounded. 19 soldiers were awarded by the Medal of Honor. Honor? For what? For their actions at Wounded Knee. The massacre is considered the tragic end of the Sioux Wars and a pivotal event in United States and Native American history. So we don't got to read no more.
So it says dancing has always been an important part of Native American life, both as a way of expression and spirituality. But many Americans decided that it was meant as a threat. And again, those Americans are referring to European settlers that came from Britain and had their colonies here. Well, I say here, over there in the land of America. So it says many Americans decided that it was meant as a threat. They associated it with war, despite the fact that Europeans and Americans had their own dances, and really should have known better than to attribute sinister motives to dancing. And yeah, that was really it. As I said before, it was like a way of giving Gadites hope, instead, because day to day they were just under Esau, enslaved under Esau. It's like, what hope is there, man? They didn't have someone to deliver them, which is part of the curses as well, Deuteronomy 28. So, Mosai set that up so that they can, in that illusion, so they can have something to hope for in vain. So it says there in the next paragraph, the ghost dance was seen as particularly threatening, and General Nelson Miles and the native peoples that they were to stop their ghost dance activities. Remember when I said about one people shall be stronger than the other? It's innate in the nature of Jake to have intimidating features as well. That's why Esau Edom, likes to what's the word? Quell or suppress certain dominant features of Jake, aka deep voice, prominent features, as they say, big lips and big nose and whatnot. It's the typical features of Jake. But Esau tries to do what they can, especially in the workplace or in certain social communities, to try and suppress, put down Jake, man, because it's an intimidation factor. Again, referring back to Genesis 25 and 23. So, so it says General Nelson Miles warned the native peoples that they were to stop their ghost dance activities. So imagine Esau was threatened by a dance. To support his warning, 7,000 troops were deployed to monitor and control the Lakota. So again, that's when the Wounded Knee incident then happened. So we're going to get into that right now. So it says the events at Wounded Knee. The American government felt threatened by the movement, with many believing that it was a sign that the Native Americans were planning something, through the ghost dance. In December 1890, members of the U.S. military arrived to arrest Chief Spotted Elk at Wounded Knee. So after Sitting Bull was ruling the Gadites, you got another chief called Spotted Elk. You know how Gadites are with their names, man. Crazy Horse. They got Sitting Bull. I think there was a guy called Red Oracle or something like that. But God had very unique names pertaining to their abilities or their traits. So it says here, the chief of the group of Minneconjo, Lakota Sioux, he and roughly 350 of his people were camped at Wounded Knee Creek. The soldiers' orders were to arrest the chief and disarm his people. Given the recent murder of Chief Sitting Bull during his arrest, the Native Americans were understandably uncomfortable with the presence of the US military. However, the people were not hardened warriors. Many of them were women and children, as this was their makeshift camp, and this is what Apostle Toa also mentioned as well in his video as well, pertaining to the Wounded Knee massacre. Now it says, following the murder of Sitting Bull, Chief Spotted Elk had decided to move his people to a location that would be safer. They had set up a temporary place at Pine Ridge Agency, hearing that the movements of the people and their ghost dance activities. General Nelson Miles, which he was one of the generals of whom was used to fight against Jake as well. Other ones are mentioned too if you search up online, but General Nelson Miles was one of them. And it says decided that the military needed to act. It says he sent Major Samuel Whiteside and the 7th Cavalry to Wounded Knee with the expressed direction to arrest the chief and some of his followers, man. So of course this is when the Most High used the wicked as his sword. So let me get that precept out right now. Let's see. Just hold on. Actually, before I get that, let me try and get this precept out. Ezekiel 9 and verse 4, which is really talking about an angel of destruction that the Most High can send or would send upon Israel, man. It says Ezekiel 9 and 4, and the Lord Yahweh said unto him, go through the midst of the city, through the midst of Jerusalem, and set a mark upon the foreheads of the men that sigh and that cry for all the abominations that be done in the midst thereof. And to others he said to mine hearing, go ye after him through the city and smite, let not your eyes spare, neither have ye pity. Slay utterly old and young, both maids and little children and women, but come not near any man upon whom is the mark, Thawa, the mark of exemption. And it says, and begin at my sanctuary. Then they began to the ancient men which were before the house. So the point is that was really referring to like an angel of destruction there. And of course the Most High could also use Jake as well, use Esau for it too.